Mark, Chairman, and the Toastmaster lady sitting down there. Sorry about that. Just caught me on the hop. It's totally, what was it again?
Bureaucracy has gone mad when?
When the Labour Party, who formed a glorious alliance with the Greens to obtain power, all of a sudden, down the track, fell out with each other, don't love each other anymore, can't stand the sight of each other. 1 minute big buddies, next minute true enemies. That's a fact.
Bureaucracy gone mad?
Definitely.
Definitely not a minute.
Oh, sorry, have I done a minute?
You've got to do a minute at 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. I'll go again. Okay. Try and get it right this time.
You can have 2 goes, it's fine.
Try and get it. Mr. Tabletopics Master, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I've got it covered. Then, the whole bureaucracy thing. Do you want to talk about Labour Party again? Yeah. What a terrible disaster. What an absolutely terrible disaster. It's funny, I come from a Labour Party orientated family. Voted Labour all my life. My son, actually, the oldest one, James, you haven't met him yet, he's a Labour Party person. He does a bit of work for the Labour Party. He's also a union man, that's his job. So, bureaucracy would play a big part in all of our lives. It's absolutely creased our family because a lot of good work that we put in, we've seen distorted, twisted and slightly destroyed. However, on a good note, does anyone know about the carbon tax? Does everyone know about the carbon tax? You don't know about the carbon tax. Well, the carbon tax is a typical bureaucratic disaster. It's something we've been told we've got to have. It's going to make everything better. The tax will sort everything out. But unfortunately, I can see big problems there already, as it's not actually working the way it's supposed to. The lights are changing. Must I keep going, or do you want some more? No, okay. I rest my case and thank you.
Okay, the second one. Do police really have powers over mankind, or is it all based on assumptions? Any takers for that one? It's a challenging one, Lynn.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting for someone just to stand up for that one, but...
Tell me.
Right.
Mr. Tabletopics Master. Bang goes the flag. Do the police have power? Yes, they have power. They've got the whole weight of the law behind them. But do they know the law? That is another matter. So if you know the law and you know they are wrong, then of course they haven't got anything behind them, have they? We all make the laws because we vote in governments who make the laws. But as anybody who has ever been to a parliamentary debate, when laws are being formed, they're rushed through. Most of us have no idea what laws are being rushed through until they are actually enforced on us. Some people think they might be good, some people might think they might be bad, but the majority of us actually don't know what legislation is going through. And it's those small, boring, uninteresting bits of legislation that can change our lives. And it doesn't matter what party you belong to, because there's all lobbyists, there's all different ideas of the people who are in there who like to have power. They may stick to their party lines, but most of them, I think, do like their jobs. So a lot of laws are put in to control us. And the more stupid we are and the less we ask for policies and know what's going on, the more they can manipulate us. So we do really well in making sure that we have no idea really what our rights are until you might stand up and say something and then find that you are actually breaking the law.
Alright, the next question could be used as a debate. It's quite an interesting one. Statistics show police will only solve 7 out of 100 crimes, but yet they'll catch thousands of speeding motorists, of which only 0.03% will actually be involved in an accident. Can 6 out of 100 solved crimes be seen as acceptable with today's technology compared with the millions taken in traffic fines? I want to have a go at that one.
Bring back bureaucracy.
Faye De Silva, come on down.
Oh, the police efficient. It's a hard job. Most people when they see a policeman, they slow down. If they go to a party and there's someone there who admits to being a policeman, almost as if he's got leprosy. But if you think back, if you can, to a couple of 100 years ago, before there was such a thing as police, life was not good for the average person. If you got robbed, tough luck. There was no one there to catch the criminal, unless you had a lot of money and could afford to pay somebody to do it. If you got murdered, you were murdered. There was nobody there to search for the villain. So I know they don't get all of the bad people, and there are a lot of people who complain about being booked for speeding, but if nobody was ever booked for speeding, think how many people would die, because everybody would speed to their little heart's content, knowing that it was quite safe until they hit something. So they might not have a fantastic success rate, but I do think they are vitally necessary. Because if someone robs my house, I want to know that at least there is someone I can complain to who may just perhaps do something about it.
Thank you, Faye. Okay, with the abundant amount of drugs in sport these days, should it now be decided to make drugs compulsory so the non-users don't get left behind? Jason Top.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to figure this out again.
Pick somebody else.
Excuse. I'm fine.
No one?
I'm done.
This lady here. What was your name, man?
Marissa?
Marissa. Marissa, you've been chosen.
Yes.
I'll run the question again.
Okay, thank you.
With the abundant amount of drugs in sport, should it now be decided to make drugs compulsory so the non-users don't get left behind?
Okay, should drugs be compulsory since there is such widespread use in all sporting sort of arenas these days? I don't believe so. I think sport is about sportsmanship, it's about goodwill, faith, principles, and I believe introducing drugs into sport will be catastrophic. We won't be able to teach our kids right from wrong. Cheating is everything, winning is everything, and it's apart from that, it's also dangerous to genetically modify yourself, taking all these pills and steroids, and I mean, we've seen all the disastrous results of people leaking things from their arms and whatnot, and just graphic. I watched this bodybuilding series of this guy who injected too much steroids into his arms, and they were like this big, and it was disgusting. He actually had to get a needle to drain it out of his arms every day, and he was a freak. And I mean, it's a bit extreme, but that's what things can lead to if we say yes, sure, let's have drugs into our sporting society. So yeah, I'm not a drug fan. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Marissa. Okay, as we are a developed nation, should our school tuck shops be funded by the government so no child will ever go hungry whilst at school? Mr. Ritz.
This reminds me of a situation that we have in Singapore whereby
Favorite topic, Master.
this reminds me of a situation we had in Singapore whereby everything is decorporatized. Like the train system is decorporatized, the sewerage system is decorporatized. So what happened is that the government no longer takes care of all these basic amenities. What happened is that, yes, it's competitive because if there are two companies, it'll be competitive. But if the company is monopolizing the utilities, for example, the price will just go up and up and up because it's monopolizing it. So back to your question, if the government is pulling the reins on the tuck shop price, I believe it will bring the prices down. But of course, if there's an apparent positive, there's always a less obvious negative. Perhaps this fund will be coming out of the taxpayers system, and eventually it will work out that we'll be paying more tax, for example. Back to you.
Thank you, Reds. Lucky last one. Is today's court system about justice or monetary values? Sneaky one. Lynn. I'll just repeat that question then. Is today's courts about justice or monetary?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics. Today's court system is all to do with the dollars rather than justice. An example of this, the sentences that are being handed out, it's all about getting the bucks rather than the actual time, for example, that should have been served for whatever that crime may be. I think now you can get away with murder for about 10 years, but there's still, well, the justice doesn't meet that particular sentence. And on the other hand, they will have some really high monetary price, a fee or fine that has to be paid. It just has no relevance to that particular misdemeanour crime that was committed. So I do believe in today's society that crime doesn't pay, it does pay because it doesn't fit there's more money coming in than the justice that should be meted out. Mr. Taylor?
Good job, Lynn.